And as we do this, I want to begin by just having you to turn to Psalm 139. Because I believe in Psalm 139, in those first 18 verses, David gives us such a beautiful picture of how God thinks about us. He begins in verse 1 by saying, "O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You understand my thought afar. You scrutinize my path and my lying down and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Even before there is a word on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all. You have enclosed me behind and before and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It's too high. I cannot attain to it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the dawn, if I dwell in the remotest parts of the sea, even there your hand will lead me, and your right hand will lay hold of me. If I say, surely the darkness will overwhelm me, and the light around me will be night, even the darkness is not dark to you, and the night is as bright as the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were all written, the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God. How vast is the sum of them. If I should count them, they would outnumber the sand. When I awake, I am still with you." Psalm 127 in verse 3 says, "Behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is His reward." I think I understand that even more today. With there being a 15-year gap between Kara and Nathan, and to have stood up here about a year ago and just to tell you my heart, and today to have a healthy little boy crawling all over the house, and every time we walk in the room he goes, it's this. I said, "Teresa, he's practicing praising God." It's like this. And like I said, as I think about all these things too, I think that reality hits and everything becomes clearer. You know, as a parent, you go to bed at night and you pray and you think about the safety of your kids, and especially now that, you know, one of them's moved out, you think about that, and you wait for them to call, and they don't. So it's a whole new world for me. And then to turn around and now have the opportunity to raise 3 boys. And it's not, oh boy. It's a lot of joy. He says their children are a gift. And if they're a gift, it's God who gives them. It's God who gives life. It's God who takes life. You need to keep that in mind. He's the one who opens or closes the womb. Many of you in here, ladies, had a closed womb. And you wanted to have a child. And there might be one of you or 2 of you in here still in that situation. And you're praying and you're asking God, will you give us a child? And as I look at some of these passages like Genesis 29:31, it says about Leah, says that the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and He opened her womb. But Rachel was barren. Or Genesis 30, when Rachel saw that she had bore Jacob no children, and she became jealous of her sister, and she said to him, "Give me children, or else I'll die." And Jacob's anger burned against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" But then you read down in verses 22 and 23, it says, God remembered Rachel, and God gave heed to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son and said, "God has taken away my reproach." God gives life, and God takes life. Deuteronomy 32:39 sums it up when it says of Israel, God is speaking, "See now that I am He, and there is no God beside me. It is I who put to death and give life. I have wounded, and it is I who heal, and there is no one who can deliver from my hand." Again, the same is true for all of us in whatever we face in situations of life and death, or of an open or closed womb. Well, God did open Emily's womb to conceive a child, allowed her to carry Grace for about 34 weeks. He allowed Grace to be born alive, and then He took Grace to be with Himself. And some would think that that's unloving of God to do that. I say that that is mercy. I mean, think about that. What is a better place to be? Here or heaven? Here, we have all the troubles of this life and the troubles of our flesh. I would much rather be in heaven. Paul said it was of a great advantage to him to depart and be with Christ. That was far better. We read tonight from Job 3, and where Job says it would have been better for him not to have been born like a miscarriage which is discarded, or as infants that never saw light, than to experience the trouble that he was experiencing in his life at that moment. You remember, he didn't lose just his possessions. He lost some of his children too. Solomon even asked in Ecclesiastes 6, verse 3, "If a man fathers 100 children and lives many years, however many they may be, but his soul is not satisfied with good things, and he does not even have a proper burial, then I say, better the miscarriage than he. For it comes in futility, and it goes into obscurity, and its name is covered in obscurity. It never sees the sun. It never knows anything. It is better off than he." And some of you in here have had miscarriages. And I believe you'll see that baby in heaven. And I'm not just saying these things just as a comfort to anybody. I'm saying this based upon what Scripture teaches. And I want you to understand a few things as we go through this tonight. First of all children are precious to God. All children are precious to God. Look at Psalm 139 and verse 17. What's the second word in that verse? Precious. "How precious also are your thoughts to me, O God! How vast is the sum of them!" And as you go through the chapter, he shows you how precious those thoughts are. Look at the first part of it. First 4 verses, he talks about how God is intimately acquainted with all of His ways. He begins verse 1 by saying that God has searched him. And this here was a penetrating search. And the word that David uses here, it originally meant to dig. The word applied to the search of precious metals. And he's literally saying, "You've dug deep in me." He's saying that God's knowledge came as if He had scoured every detail of his life.